You are listening to the Odd or God Pod, where we talk about sobriety, spirituality, and everything in between. I'm Eric Parra, and I run sober living homes in Phoenix, Arizona. Each week, I sit down with different people in recovery and have them share their experience, strength, and hope to carry the message of recovery to everyone affected by drug and alcohol addiction. Welcome back to another episode of the Odd or God Pod, where we talk about sobriety, spirituality, and everything in between. This week we have a very special episode. It is our first episode of 2024, so all you otters out there, Happy New Year. Congratulations, you made it another trip around the sun. Now, we are starting this year off with a very special episode. I have had the opportunity of meeting this week's guest about 6 months ago, I believe, just kind of seeing her around. And, over that time, I've really just been learning more and more about her. I'm excited that I have an opportunity to sit down today and, hear about your story and and all that good stuff. So let me stop rambling for you guys. Let her introduce herself. Everyone, welcome Alayna.
Thank you very much. Alayna. My name is Alayna and I'm an addict.
Yeah.
Alcoholic. I'm addicted to anything that feels good. Thank you for asking me to be here. I appreciate it, and I've been looking forward to it. And so where do we start?
Well, let's start here. Maybe tell us your sobriety date, and then jump right into, we don't want to get too far back into all the war stories, but what did life look like right before you made the decision to seek help and go to treatment? And then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm coming actually up on my first year of sobriety. My sober date is January 18th, 23, which oddly enough, a couple days before, we would have been celebrating my death date if I was successful. Yeah. And I wasn't. And I woke up, the day before the 18th, just pissed. Just absolutely upset that I was still alive, and just kind of went on from there. They're kind of trigger warning. There are things that I talk about. I'm not going to get in depth with them, but I talk about them, and I can say them out loud because they no longer hold any kind of power over me. They no longer, I've taken that power away, but I think they're vital, important things that kind of about my history and about what's going on with me. Started back in the winter of '86. Yeah. No, but honestly, I came into this world in a haste. Cord wrapped around my neck, not breathing. That's kind of like my life started in chaos. And if I had a theme for my life, it would be chaos. And that's always what it's been. Controlled chaos, uncontrolled, it just didn't matter. I had my first drink at about 5-6 years old, and it was on accident. I was playing outside, and my mother, rest in peace, she was a very bad alcoholic. So, it's mid-morning on a Saturday, and I came in playing outside, and there's this beautiful, glistening cup of ice-cold soda. False. That was rum and Coke. But yeah, so, it made me feel weird. Made my head feel funny. Man, felt kind of good. I grew up with an alcoholic mother, only for, we only lived together until I was about 11, maybe 10, but that was enough. And, unfortunately, she passed away in 22, and she was a very bad alcoholic and an addict, and unfortunately I learned about things too late in her death to understand why she was the way she was. Right. I wasn't even sober yet, so I didn't understand why she was the way she was, because you just think...
You didn't even know you were an alcoholic and an addict yet, never mind her.
Never mind her, yeah. I didn't get it, I didn't understand. I'm just how do you have a child? How do you do all these things? How do you birth something out of you, and then you just don't care? Here's the deal. She couldn't. Yeah. She was incapable. So, that is one thing I've dealt with. There's a couple different instances of, SAs, sexual assault, as a kid and as a young teen. And, the one thing that happened when I was younger, that was a one-time event. And the other one was years on event. And it was kind of like, if you don't do this, I'm going to do it to somebody else that you love. So those are the things I had to endure. Started drinking and smoking at 12 on the baseball field out on the reservation. Just hanging out, and that's what the great idea, Marble Reds and a hot Coors Banquet beer. God, that was awful. Like, that should have been enough. But it wasn't. Drugs and alcohol have always been a part of my scene. Somewhere, anywhere, there has been drugs and alcohol involved. Sorry. There's always been an escape, right? There's always been something. And, I could turn it off and turn it on. I had a rough high school episode. I was drunk the whole time or high the whole time.
Right.
Classes, drama, choir, didn't matter. Sang better, right? I do everything better. Took my ASVAB better, and was doing all these things. And I had people, I moved out when I was 16, almost 17, I think. I just wasn't, my family was moving and they're like, stay or go. And I'm like, go. I'm not going with you guys. Like, I'm not, like, I just coming into my junior, senior year of high school and you want to just take me out everywhere? No. So I moved out. By the grace of God, I had good people looking out for me. I had some really prevalent people in my high school career that knew my capabilities and my potential. And I still talk to them this day. They're like a mother and a father to me. And aunties and grandmas, you know what I mean? That's what they are to me now. They started out as, people say, well, you're just a teacher, or she's just a teacher, I'm just a teacher. Well, let me tell you something. Just teachers have changed my life. And I'm pretty sure without just teachers, I probably wouldn't be here today. So I had these people and they were just like, you're great, Alayna, we love you, but you're the biggest wasted talent I've ever seen. It is absolutely appalling, the things you settle for and you're happy with. So I said, okay, I'm gonna, they're just like, you just wasted talent. I'm like, oh, thanks. We love you, but it's sad. It's sad to see you this way. So I was like, well, I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna change my life, right? I did. I changed my life. I, did all these wonderful community things, did all, in my, senior year of high school, senior class president, all these things. We did blood drives and fundraising, and we did plays, and we did all these wonderful things. And, I get the Spirit of the Community Award, a leadership award, all these different things. And I'm like, here it is. I'm going to change my life. If I had a theme besides chaos for me, it would be the comebacks, right? Yeah. I am the queen of fucking comebacks. Oh, and sorry, by the way, I cuss a lot too. Yeah. So I'm going to try to simmer that down. But I am the queen of comebacks. Going to go to the Air Force. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is the life I'm going to live. And, well, before I go, I'm going to go have some fun. Had some fun, went out of town, had a great time, came back. Should have been enough. I got to go to work tomorrow. I should go home and go to bed. No, I didn't. I went home and I partied, went out. One thing leads to another. I lose a leg at 19 years old. That was traumatic in experience, but like I said, I've collected it. I've gotten not over it, but I've accepted my fate. I've accepted all my things. One thing with my life is I've had to find just like radical acceptance in anything that I come in. Like, and I mean radical. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, well, there's traffic. God's will.
Yep.
God's will,
Can I change it? No. I accept it.
I accept it. Thank you. But that was part of, I've always dabbled, here and there with substance. I drank a lot as a young adult and a teenager, but that's where you start with your oxys and your pain pills, right? So here I am, 19 years old, baloney amputee. My whole life that I thought I was gonna have is gone. My money is gone. House gone. Cars gone. Everything is gone. The only thing I had was I had family that helped me. They took me in, and then I had food, I had pills, I had alcohol. Those were prevalent.
The essentials.
The essentials. That's really all I needed to survive. And I have my own story and my own things I go into. So I like I said, the art of the comeback, right? So here we go. We know how I got here, right? Drugs, alcohol, right? Okay. Right. Another kind of pivotal thing in my life was like, okay, well, I've been down in the slumps and here I am doing nothing. I said, what's the hardest thing I can do? I like to prove to myself. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to be a registered nurse. And I had family kind of look at me and like, you sure about that?
Yeah.
You're barely standing.
Yeah.
How the hell do you think you're going to do that? And I said, well, watch me. So I did. I went to nursing school. And it was one of the most wonderful things I ever did. It became a part of me. It became part of my identity. It became, the nurses are like the mafia.
Yeah.
Once you're in, that's all you live, that you breathe it. Yeah. That's what you do.
You're part of the RN gang now. Yeah.
We got the RN walk, but
the RN West Siders,
God, I'm telling you. No, and it's a great group of people, and the people I've come in contact as in nursing they're wonderful, great people, selfless people. You still have, just like you have in recovery, you still have people that are sick, right? Sick, spiritually sick. But they do this job or whatever. And, I found a home with RNs, right? I've always had depression. I've always had anxiety. I've always had these issues, and they've never been resolved. So here I am, find this meaningful career. I have a decent relationship, bought a house, there's kids, there's a relationship, there's, all the things, right? I had all these wonderful things. I still wasn't happy. I like to identify myself as an addict with an Alayna problem because Alayna's the problem. Yeah. And no matter what fancy letters I put behind my name or beautiful house I lived in or wonderful family or cool car that I had, I was still desperately broken into a million pieces. There's, like I said, we didn't get too much into the history, but, one day we could, and it'll be like a 4-hour podcast, so we're not going to do that today. But
we'll make a little mini series on it. A deep dive into Alayna's life.
We'll go adolescent, toddler. But I was still broken on the inside. So here I had this rewarding job. I had these amazing things I was doing, and I'm pouring from this empty cup, right? Just I'm completely out, but I'm pouring, man. 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours. And I still have this issue. And, in 2019, I almost blew my brains out. Like I said, I talk about stuff that's not, it is.
All good.
It is
it's
what
a
it
safe
is.
space.
It's a safe space, right? I almost shot myself. And, I go to the hospital that I worked at in their ER, but I was, thank God I had a moment of clarity. One half a moment. And, in this time, I'm still substances, right? Substances are just a part of my life. They always have been. And it's like, well, I'm not doing drugs, but I'm just drinking. But I'm the kind of person is like, I finished this beer, right? You know what sounds great? Have you ever ruined your life?
Yeah.
Have you ever burned a house down and watched it burn? Like, that's how drugs and alcohol work for me, is I'm like, just that first sip.
It's like I'm allergic to alcohol. I drink it and I break out in handcuffs.
Handcuffs. Thank the Lord, I haven't.
Right.
I'm one of those blessed ones. Like, I'm just sitting here, I'm reflecting yesterday because I'm just, my whole thing is like I wanna say the right thing. Like, I'm hoping, that I say the right thing, or that my message is conveyed correctly. And it's just like, you know what, we're just gonna let it go. And my philosophy is like, I have this thing I want to say or want to do, and you have to forgive me because I get lost my track and thought sometimes. But I'm just trying to do the right thing, and this drugs and alcohol don't allow me to do that. Yeah, they don't allow me to do the right thing, and thank God, I must be here for something.
Yeah,
I've got to be here for something. There are so many times. I was reflecting. That's what I was saying. There we go. I was reflecting yesterday, and I'm just like, how in God's name am I still here?
Right. Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing that you brought up, because it's like we're shooting this on the day before New Year's Eve, right? And so this is our last Saturday of 2023. And like you said, you got sober in January earlier this year. You're coming up on your year. While you were reflecting, where were you at a year ago compared to where you're at now? And, what did that look like over the next, 3 weeks that eventually led up to your failed attempt that brought you to recovery?
Well, what brought me to recovery was there's, A precipitating event, honestly, was right before I actually came in 2020. So 2019, I have this, almost kill myself, and I basically I go to a mental hospital where they've sedated me into submission, is what I call it. Provided zero. They kept me safe for 7 days. Right. They kept me safe for 7 days, and they got some meds.
Took your shoelaces, dosed you out. Like, all right, chill out.
Sleep it off. You'll feel better in a week. And I got out, and I still had no resolution. I still had no resolve. I'm working as a nurse in the ER. I've got my issues still, my substance issues, and I've got my problems. And COVID comes around, so I go and I go through COVID 2020. I go to New York. I actually went to the Bronx. Shout out to all my people in New York. They were awesome out there. They were great, man. You want to talk about taking it? And I met people from all across the country there. It was amazing. It was, it was pandemic relief. And it was, without those certain people that I met, I would not have been, wouldn't have made it as long as I did out there. But the long and the short of that is whether you believe in COVID or not, right? COVID's not real. God bless America. Anyways, whether you believe in COVID or not, regardless, thousands upon thousands died. Yeah. Upon thousands. And didn't make any sense. There was no rhyme and reason. You had whatever you had at your disposal, whether it be people, equipment, things like that. We were running out of stuff, but we still had it. And no matter what you did, they died. Death, dying every day. So I tried to compartmentalize as best as I could, and it started out, with a drink, 2 drinks. Next thing you know, it's, half a bottle just to get to sleep at night. And I have all this unresolved stuff. So I go over there and I have still my substance issues. Yeah. I still have all that I'm doing, and then I come home. Yeah.
Figures you traveled across the country. Alayna still went with you.
Yep, she still showed up.
She was still there.
She's still ripped and raring to go. I had no coping skills, no anything, and I just kept going. So needless to say, I came back from New York in 2020 with just this even worse than before.
You're jaded.
Just manifested this. I was jaded from everything and everyone and people, and it was just insane. So I come back, take some time off. There are some unsavory things I've done pre-recovery. And I'm just going to say that. I won't get into what it is, but God knows, I know, and another human being, at least one knows. I've done my step 5. So I have a problem. This community, this medical community, these hospitals, these people that I've given years and holidays and everything to, see I have a problem, think I have a problem, offer no resolution. Nothing. Not one, can we help you? Not one, are you okay? It was very matter of fact, very curt, very this, maybe this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe we have, and I didn't have any strength to fight it. So I didn't have any strength. I was completely defeated on my whole life front about everything, and I was cast out, to say the least. So this profession I gave years and years to, and I go and volunteer during a pandemic, and I go and do all these things, and I come back, and I am broken into pieces. First of all, not just being out in New York, the entire healthcare system itself was so broken. Nurses, doctors, PAs, CNAs, people that clean the hospitals, like, God bless them. Like, EVS, shout out to the Environmental Health Services. Like, good God almighty. Without those people, hospitals wouldn't have ran. But, we go and we give all this time and everything, and then I come back and I'm wearing this fucking cape, right? Come back to my hometown, and like, oh, you're wonderful, you're great. Who was I to say, hey, I need some help?
Right.
I couldn't say I needed help. I couldn't say, all the things that I wanted to. I was trying to be honest, and I wasn't even honest with myself. How could I have been honest with anyone else? So, I'm cast out. I'm no longer nursing. They're like, you can fight it if you want to, or you have A plan or B plan. What do you want to do? And I just said, let's do B plan. I'm going to step away for a while. Let me try to figure my life out. That was basically the green light to keep drinking. And that's what I did for years.
And now you had a good enough reason for it.
And now I had a great reason. Yeah. Like, I can always find
Yeah.
I can always find the excuse in everything.
That is the mind of the alcoholic. You almost, and I remember, at least for myself, I would sometimes wait for that next just big fuck up to happen, because that was, like you said, just the green light to say, fuck it, now I don't, well, this happened, so now I'm just gonna, now I just drink all day. Like, that's it.
That's it, and that's the thing is, I could find an excuse in anything. You know, anybody who knows my whole story, they'd be like, no shit, she's an addict, all right. Hell, I would have been one too. Yeah. So I had every excuse. I'm the queen of finding excuses, you know. So here I am, no job. My career I thought I had, I've let it go for the time being, you know, and I'm just alone, right? And I'm not alone, but I feel alone. You know, I have people that love me. I had, you know, situations arise that have saved me, you know, and these situations know who and what they are. And, yeah, man, so that was green light. That was 22 and 23. Drink, drank, drunk. That's all I was doing. You know,
real quick, let's pause. I'm going to switch the battery out in this thing before it dies. Yeah, sure. So... Go ahead. All
right, here we are, you know, not nursing anymore. I had a friend die. You know, that's not, you know, again, not my story. So I'm not going to tell other people's stories. But I had a friend die, and I had lost everything by my own hand. I wish I could say, oh, it was ripped from my grasp. No, I threw it. Yeah. I said, no, I don't want it.
Yeet.
Yeah, get this shit out of here. You know, and it gave me just free reign to just blow my life up. Yeah. So I did. Drink, drank, drunk. Isn't that a drinking game? I think it is. You know, so that's what I did. I had, you know, I've always had this part of me in the back of my brain that knows when something's wrong, right? But the addict part just overruled every time. It's like, nope. You know, so I would do just enough to come back, and I'd be like, okay, I got to get my life together. I got to get this. I can't hurt these people. I love these people. I want to be, you know, I want a family. I want this. I want that. Pull me back in. So I battled with trying to stay sober. And I tried, you know, for the time prior to me going to treatment, I tried. I didn't give AA, NA, HA no chances, because there's no way that shit works. That was me. Contempt prior to investigation.
I'm not one of those 12-steppers.
Well, I didn't even know what 12-stepping was. That's the thing, right? Like, I didn't even know. I'm like, there's no way of sitting in a room reading a book.
Yeah. I don't need to sit in a circle in some church and talk about drinking.
Yeah, I don't. What do they have to offer me? You know.
All right.
So where am I here? You know. Okay. I'm. There's nothing 12 steps have to offer me, right? So I battle, and I have these people that love me, you know, family, friends, and they loved me, but they loved me from over here, you know. Yeah. Like we're not gonna sit here and watch you kill yourself, and that is what I was doing. Yeah. I was killing myself, and I, you know, found a different job. You know, you find a different job. It was wonderful. Met some great people. Some people that throughout my recovery were monumental in having my back. So time and a place for everyone and everything. I firmly believe this. And then, like, going more into my recovery, I'm just like, oh my God, these were not coincidences at all.
You start connecting the dots looking backwards, and you're like, I was on a fucking trajectory.
Yeah, and it's like, this was not a mistake. This was not by chance. This was divine intervention that I completely ignored. Mm-hmm. And I did, and you know, the long and the short of it is, a couple days before the 18th, I tried to kill myself. I didn't call anyone. I didn't tell anyone. Nothing. Had a couple of letters written, and they were by the bed. My door was shut, so, you know, my dog wouldn't, you know, disrupt my seemingly corpse, what I thought, you know. And I thought I was doing the world a favor. I was doing the world a favor. The people I loved, I was doing them a favor. Doing you a solid. You no longer have to wait and worry about me anymore. Right. That is where I looked at my life, as I'm worth more dead than alive. So I did what I could and failed. When I say this attempt was failed and there's no reason I should be alive, besides the, you know, not having access to a firearm, this was the only other thing I could have done, and it was unsuccessful. So I wake up a couple days later, absolutely just astonished that I'm alive and pissed at the same time. Like, motherfucker, are you kidding me right now? Like, what is going on? So, I go what anyone else would do on a Saturday or, on a, Monday at 8 a.m. I went and got a 30 pack.
Yeah.
I went and got a 30 pack and I'm like, all right, let's go. And I just kept it going. Some events arose on the 18th and then that was it. That was the day before the 17th. Some things happened. Luckily, I didn't get in trouble and I didn't have all these things. I didn't make any very monumental mistakes, which could have gotten me in trouble. Thank God I didn't. And that was my first level of surrender. That was my first, holy shit, I am powerless, right? I am powerless and I have no solution. So I go and I say, all right, I'll do whatever you want. Send me wherever you want. Send me to the farthest corner of America and I'll go. And so that was my first. And, you think you're willing then. I was semi-willing.
Yeah, you have no idea what you're actually signing up for.
Like, no clue. So here I am semi-willing to participate in this. And,
You're willing to have all of these bad feelings get taken away. You're willing to, not have to, worry about all this other shit. But you don't know how willing you're going to need to be to, all the work that you have to do.
No, I had no clue. So, here I go. And I have this thing and this mindset where I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go to detox. I'm going to go to these things. They send me out to Scottsdale, a place out in Scottsdale. And, I go and I do detox and I have my, little experience. They bring an H&I in, which was cool. And I'm like, this will be all right. Met some very interesting people in detox, because what I love about addiction, it doesn't give a shit where you're from.
It's the melting pot.
It does not give a shit. Yeah. I shared a hallway with a girl that was, grew up in the richest part of America, who was just in pieces. You had me. There was a girl that was brought in she was living under a bridge out in Phoenix. Yeah. Addiction does not give a shit who and where you come from.
It's the great equalizer.
The great equalizer. That's great, actually. It really is. And so, I'm doing this and I'm thinking to myself, all right, so I'm going to do detox. I'm going to dry out. I'm going to let the water settle. And then I'll be able to go home and it'll be fine. I do an H&I and have these things and I'm like, maybe I'm not as good as I thought. And they're like, let's get you to a residential treatment program. And I'm just like, but what about my job? And they're like, yeah, no. What if you're dead? Right. Then that job doesn't matter. It's like, fair point. All right, I'll tell you what. I'll go if you can get somewhere that won't make me pay 20 grand out of pocket, because who has 20 grand and just give out of pocket, especially when you're an addict?
Right.
Who's got 20 grand laying on me? So, I give it a chance. I try to go and they're like, all right, well, there's these places will take you, but we need 6 grand. And I talked to this guy at one place and he's like, listen, I got a friend who works for another place. Let him talk to you. And that was the first steps of my miracle, of my spiritual experience, of all these things. When I say everything lines up, just clack, clack, clack. The only reason I learned about this one place to go is because of a group I attended at the detox. And he said, listen, I think you'd be a great fit for this place. Call them and they're like, listen, we need this much money, but I know a guy. So shout out to, can I say names on here?
Yeah, you can shout out people.
Yeah, a shout out to Zane at the River Source. Zane, man. I talked to Zane and I'm like, listen, I need help, man. But I'm fucked. Morally, financially. I am bankrupt, my friend. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, do you want to get sober? Do you want to get sober? Because that's the bottom line. Is that what you want? Yeah, man. Yeah. All right, well, then we'll figure the money out later. Shout out to Zane, man. That guy was one of my Eskimos. Brian likes to call them Eskimos, and he was one of mine, and got me to the River Source. And he said, the real bugaboos, it's out in Arizona City. I said, where the fuck is that?
You said you wanted to go out to the far corners of the world. You got Arizona City. I describe Arizona City as like Camp Green Lake from the movie Holes, because all I remember is when they took me there and they dropped me off in the middle of the desert, and I remember walking that track and I was like, oh, I am in the middle of nowhere. There is no running away from here.
Well, here's the thing with one leg. Where are you running to anyways? Yeah, the nearest thing was 4 miles away. I said, wow, they really did me dirty on this one. Yeah. And that was, it's Arizona City. I'm like, well, shit. All right, whatever. I don't know where this is, but let's go. I go there and, still I have semi-surrender, right? I think I've surrendered.
Yeah.
I haven't surrendered. I haven't really, I'm there. Right. Going through the motions. I'm still sick. Like, I still don't feel well. Yeah. I am still just like, ooh, I feel like garbage, man. This is terrible. Like, so I go and I show up and, I'm there for a couple of days and, you're getting used to it, the residential life. And this place is, I've been to other places for H&Is. This place is really nice. So, it's decent. So I'm like, okay, these amenities are cool. There's no pool. God forbid. I heard so much crap about a pool, but whatever. And I'm just like, you know what? Let's just do this and give it a shot. Here we go. I hit day 2, day 3. I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. Yeah. Get me out of here. This is insane. Why would anybody, and shout out to, another one of my Eskimos, Waldo. Yeah. Waldo, man, that guy, and I was sitting there and I was pissed off, and he looks at me and he goes, hey, what are you so mad about? Like, what's going on? I miss my family, man. I miss being at home. I miss my family. I got a dog, She's old. Like, I just want to go home. And he goes, oh, you miss your family? Like, you love them? Well, where the fuck have you been for 10 years? Mm-hmm. Now you want to be locked. You send yourself somewhere for help, and now you want to be, oh, I want to go home. I love my family. Where the fuck have you been? You should have been loving your family all along, and now, here you are needing help, and now you want to go run home. That was the moment in residential. All of a sudden, my thinking flipped. You go in there with healthcare background, you're like, what are they going to fucking tell me that I don't know already? Oh, let me tell you. And that was, I was the grouchy old guy in the room, I was, these, no discrimination to anybody or anything, but there are some people that have to be there, and there's some people that want to be there. And I had no problem being like, hey, like, they're talking in group, and especially with Waldo's group, like, don't be talking during Waldo's group, because I want to hear what this little man's got to say, because he's got something to say.
Nope. All right.
God bless that camera.
We are just fighting for our life.
We're gonna figure it out. Figure it out. We got it.
Power
all right,
hour.
So let's go power time. Residential Waldo. I had no problem standing up for my recovery. There'd be people talking in the room, and I'd be like, "Hey, could you politely shut the fuck up?"
Yeah, what you described is that perspective shift that they talk about in the 12 and 12, where you no longer view this as something that you have to do and you want to do it. You want to participate in your recovery, and you want that new way of living.
The desperation of a drowning man. That was me. The alcoholic of the hopeless variety. That was me. And now I realized just how much I was drowning. So I had residential and I did all these things. And like I said, I've had these levels of surrender, right? And so I do get residential when rounding up. And they're like, well, you need to do PHP. And I was like, yeah, get fucked. I'm not doing PHP. I got to go back to work. And they're like, well, okay. Like, they didn't push it, but they're like, dropping little hints. And then by the grace of God and like, I can only say like by prayer, like my family knew I had to go, but I wouldn't. I was like, sorry, not happening. Denied. The 2 days before I was supposed to leave, I'm sitting there with my case manager and we're playing a game. And I said, you know what, Des? I think I might need to do this PHP thing. And thank God I did. Because you think you get stuff from residential. Nah, residential is a safety zone.
Yeah, you're like all isolated. You're like, you're surrounded by it from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. But as soon as you get some sort of freedom, you're like, you realize like, oh, I don't actually have it as much as I think I did.
Your world just goes,
yeah,
like, oh shit. So thank God, doing PHP and ILP was one of the greatest things in my life. Yatanya, Jill, everyone, Rose, everybody. Yeah. All of them down at the PHP, and I did my full continuum at River Source. Loved him to death. I did sober living for a little bit, but it wasn't for me. I just couldn't make it happen financially. I was struggling. Yeah. And that's where the miracles started happening, all the things, and I finally surrendered. I went to a meeting. I wouldn't get a sponsor, right? I wouldn't get a sponsor. There's no way that having somebody is gonna.
I don't need somebody looking over my shoulder telling me what to do.
False. Yeah. I exactly need somebody over my shoulder telling me exactly what to do, or with the best intention of saying, "Listen, I know you see this way, but listen to me from my outside view." And honestly, just the 12 steps, the big book, all those things. When I finally said okay, and I was doing the meetings, and I was doing the treatment, and I was doing all the things that I thought I should be doing, I still wasn't living recovery. Mm-hmm. I was participating. I was going through the motions. I was showing up in the rooms. Anybody,
You were sober, but you weren't recovering.
Exactly, and there's two different things. And I like to consider my spiritual experience was actually connected to my sponsor. Her significant other. And one night we're sitting outside of a meeting, and he turns to me and he looks at me. He goes, "How are you doing, Alayna?" At that point in time, I'm doing okay. They asked me, what are 3 things that could happen in your recovery that would be detrimental? And I'd be like, well, I could lose my job. My relationship can implode, and my dad could die. And it was like God said, check, check, and check. So within my first 90 days, that's what happened. So, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to recover. I'm going through all these things, dad dies, lose my job, my relationship I thought I had, all these things. And I'd just been ripped from my grasp. And he sits there and he turns to me, "How are you doing?" "I'm all right. I'm alive, I'm sober. I made it to 7 meetings this week." He goes, How are you doing when nobody's looking?" Boy.
How's the other 23 hours outside of that meeting?
Boy, let me tell you. And I looked at him and said, "This motherfucker. Is it odd or is it God?" Yeah. They say that because I've had all these little nuggets, man. All these people, I would have never, someone probably never would have sat and had a conversation with. Not because I don't like them, but because I don't know them. And I'm very odd sometimes when meeting new people. Yeah. And he's sitting there and he says to me, "And how's your recovery when nobody's looking?" That changed everything. Changed my whole entire recovery. And, I had my sponsor, I had my sponsee sisters, I have my family, I have all these people supporting my back, and, I've done all the things, and I don't just go to meetings now, I sponsor other people. I don't discriminate with my sponsorship. If we have a connection that's going to work, I'll take you. Yeah. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. And they don't understand, just how pivotal they are for my recovery too. And, the daily surrender that has to happen in the work. Being sober is a full-time job. I got a full-time job, I got a family, and I've got sobriety. I've got 3, I'm working 3 full-time jobs here. And, it's amazing when you finally, drop the rock, right? Drop the rock. When you drop the rock and embrace everything, all of a sudden every wall's come tumbling down. What I thought I had or you think you have just goes away, but here's the good thing. I get to rebuild from scratch. That foundation that was always the house always burned down, but I kept the same foundation. It's it'll be all right. It lasted through 1 house fire, lasted through 2 house fires. Right. It'll still be good. No, this one I ripped out. I ripped it out, and I am by no means perfect. I still make mistakes. I still got those addict behaviors in there and those things that I have, and it's just so I still make mistakes, but I do my best to rectify them as soon as possible. I work out of the big book. I read out of the big book. I try to live out of the big book. And I think the first 164 pages, I think if everybody in the world read the first 164 pages, I'm convinced this place would be a better place.
I am so in agreement with you. I'm one of those guys where I tell people straight up, be like, just so you know, it's I am one of those guys of the variety that live and die by this book. It's like if it's not explicitly written in here, I do not consider that the program. I consider that a variation of a program, but it's not the program, right? Because it's no matter what you're facing, guaranteed you're going to find it in there. And it's going to show you exactly why. You are the way you are because you are I'm an alcoholic.
Well, and when was this written?
1936.
36?
Yeah.
Well, I want to know how I was alive in 1936 for them to write this book about me.
Yeah.
Because, you sit there and you read and you flip through the pages.
This motherfucker.
Somebody's got a camera in my room.
Yeah.
Somebody's been watching me.
Yeah.
Like, is this the Truman Show? Because, these guys have been watching me, I try to do as much as I can by this. And, I still have phases and waves of growing.
Yeah.
My views on things evolve. Acceptance.
And they're always going to,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the thing is that no matter what part of your life that you're in, whatever part of your journey you're at, you're always going to be able to apply what the book is telling you in the 12 steps into any situation, right? And it's like that it's going to solve the problem, which is the spiritual malady. Mm-hmm. It's like, and it's like we can learn as much as we want about ourselves and we can have all of this awareness, but the book tells us we are going to drink again unless we can go on a daily basis and live on a spiritual means. And it's like that to me was like when I started thinking oh, okay, this, they're not telling me how to stay sober. They're just telling me how to rid myself of bondage of my own self, get out of my own way enough to live a life. So let me ask you this, for anybody watching that's new in sobriety, maybe they just relapsed, they're having a hard time coming back, or maybe they're on the fence about seeking help at all. Do you have any words of advice or encouragement for them?
There is definitely two things I want to say. The main thing is, we like to draw lines between the A's, right? The AAs, the NAs, the HAs, the CAs. Okay. Alcohol is a drug, period. But so is gambling, sex, food, right? I don't care what kind of A meeting you're at. If you're committed enough to your recovery, whoever is sitting in that chair, whatever message is being spoken, there is something valid to gain from every person that you have. Even if what you gain is, I don't want to do that. You've still learned something. So number one is there's always something to learn from everyone, everything you've come. And acceptance, surrender is a daily principle. Giving back what was so freely given to you to others is pivotal, monumental in my recovery. And, the main thing is that I take away is the gratitude you have at the end of the day. We go to work and I got to go to fucking work today. Fuck, I got to do laundry. Fuck, I got to go get gas. Fuck, Now I'm I get to do my laundry. I get to go to work. I get to participate in life. I get to be able to go to the gas station and pay for some gas. Yeah. I get to do that. I get to have an argument, I get to say I'm sorry. Yeah. I get to do these things, and I'm grateful for every aspect that's come into my life, every person that's come into my life, every situation. I am so grateful. I'm grateful for the people I've met in these rooms. I'm grateful for the river stores. I'm grateful for meeting fine folks like you because, we would have, who knows what kind of paths. We never would have crossed paths. And it's amazing the people that I've worked. So if I have to say anything, give it a chance. Because here's the deal. What do you have to lose?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chances are, if you're watching this podcast, you really you probably do need some sort of help.
What do you have to lose? Worst case scenario, you are still in your same position. Yeah. No worse. Best case scenario, you've changed your entire fucking life. And those promises, man, those promises come ripping and roaring. Yeah, maybe they don't dump in on week one, but all of a sudden it just goes bap, 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 bap. And you're just that's got to be my favorite. Between the acceptance is the answer and the promises, that is just my main thing. And they come true every day. So if I have any advice, give it a chance, because what do you have to lose?
Yeah. And it is, and you are right. One day, if you stick with it and you keep going, one day you're just going to wake up, and unknowingly to you, without any effort to your own, anything, you're just going to realize that you are living a completely different life than you did before. And it's and it's no longer something that you have to think about. You're just doing it. You're just being a functioning, contributing member of society. And it's like, then that's when you realize that's like, I've changed.
And, you know, the biggest gift on that was the biggest gift I got this holiday season, right? It's my dad passed away this year, and, you know, it was my first holidays without him. And, you know, the family just kind of falls apart when you have a patriarch go down. Yeah. They really do. And it's unfortunate, but it happens. But, you know, the greatest gift I got this year was like the people that do love me, my family, my loved ones. They were like, you know, I'm like, hey, I didn't get you anything this year. No, you've given us more than you could possibly. Like the fact that I see your number pop up and I don't think you're dead or in jail or like something's happened to you. Like the greatest gift I've received is they're like, you have finally become the person we always knew you could be. And we are so excited to love you and be with you and cherish you and see what you're really capable of. Because that's the thing is I'm doing all these things in life and I'm shit-faced the whole time.
Right.
So what? Now, where's the roof? Where's the ceiling?
Right.
Let's go. You know, so we had my rebuild year and let's see what comes up next and go from there, man. Gratitude, grateful, and I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad you asked me to be here, and I really appreciate it, man. I really do.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. For those of you watching, you're going to notice there's going to be a lot of hard cuts. I forgot the freaking charging cord for the camera, so we've been burning through batteries left and right. We're on battery number 4, but hey, such is life. Acceptance. But no, thank you so much for coming on the pod and talking with us a little bit. And for everybody watching, you know, if you do feel like you need help, just do not hesitate. Whether you DM us, reach out to any of us directly, or you just, you know, go online and find a treatment center that works for you. Just pick up that phone, reach out for help. It's the beginning of a new year. And like Alayna was saying, I mean, it could be you starting 2025 saying you've changed your life, you know, and it all starts with just asking for help and reaching out. So we're always here and we always have resources in the description of every episode. So don't hesitate to reach out. Alayna, thank you so much.
Eric, thank you.
Yeah. And everybody watching, we'll see you next week.